Welcome back to the Ubumfa pod. It is 1 p.m. on the 31st of August, which means that we are no more than 4 days away from NFL football.
Thank
Uh, we're
golly.
pl- thank golly. No more of that goofy preseason nonsense. No more watching Easton Stick and Trey Lance shenanigans. We're watching the real shit,
Amen.
including Tyler. No, not Tyler Shuck.
Uh,
Including Spencer Radler.
Spencer Radler. Yeah.
Real football.
Oh, yeah.
Real football. Um, we know we're recording this nice and close, so we got all of the up to date information, all of it,
Yeah, I would
even the
have.
mo.
I would have had some different things to say had we recorded this a couple days earlier. That's for sure. We'll get to
Yep,
that.
yep. But yeah, today we're talking about the NFC. We'll also, of course, do the AFC. Lots to talk about. Very interesting landscape this year. A lot of potential movement going on for teams. Uh, but yeah, we'll go over a little bit of what happened last year, a little bit of the off season, and then just what we think is gonna probably happen this year. We say probably to be polite. This is what is going to happen this year, so hopefully you tune in and get all your bets in, as always, because you're getting all the correct information right here, 4 days before the season starts.
Amen.
Andrew, pick a number between 1 and 4.
Oh, boy. I'm picking four for my boy, Dak Prescott.
Wow, wow, wow. What's what was that one nickname that he had? Like the Fortress?
Fortress.
Isn't that like one of his like nicknames listed on that one like website?
If I don't remember this, but I think it should be. That's hard.
I think that's right. Um, okay, so number 4, we're going to talk about the NFC South
Oh,
first.
the fourth best division in the
Well,
NFC.
I'm not going to give away my secrets here, but this is the punchline division of the NFL for the past few years. Um, it's been full of some pretty shitty teams. Uh, has been some easy outs, easy wins for teams that get to play them.
Yep.
Any given year pretty much determines if how what your strength of schedule is going to look like. Is do you play the NFC South or yes or no? Including you being in the NFC South,
So true.
obviously.
Doesn't
Uh,
help them that much though.
no, you still gotta fight yourself at the end of the day. Got to fight the team in the mirror. And so let's start with the top team, the team that's kind of owned this division um, the last few years, and the last team in this division to win a Super Bowl, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, Man, what is there to even say? I feel like as far as like their off season goes, I feel like they didn't do a ton.
No, not a ton.
It was mostly they cite Hassan Reddick, which could be big if he plays. Um, they re-signed Chris Godwin, who will miss probably the first month of the season.
Yeah, but that's all right. He'll come back and he's gonna tear it up like normal, I
He
imagine.
was I mean he was looking like on pace to like be like top 3 in the league in receiving yards before he got hurt.
Yep.
Uh, so, but they'd also notably in the draft added Amika Ibuka from
Just
Ohio State in the first
absolute,
round.
absolute layup. Good value, and I mean with
Yeah,
Godwin being out, just got to think. I mean he's just it's like I mean he's a rookie, sure, but was in college for so long, played for you know wide receiver U
yeah,
with lots of other receivers that were taken before him. I mean he's done the thing for a long time. I'm
yeah,
not. I think he's just gonna like seamlessly fit into whatever role they have for him, which I imagine will be pretty big, honestly,
yeah.
especially with Godwin being out.
And McMillan is also out, at least I think for the start of the season. And
Yeah,
obviously, I think the fact that they even drafted Ibuka kind of implies that maybe they liked McMillan, but as like a number 3, without maybe as much upside. Whereas with Ibuka, you're like looking at probably a pretty solid wide receiver too. like you said, off rip. It's kind of what everybody was saying coming into the draft was that he was just kind of a polished, like sure thing,
Yep.
and that's all we've heard since he's been drafted. So, with that all being said, I mean, I would say probably the biggest move impacting them was the fact that they lost their OC again.
Yep.
Um, Cohen goes to the Jags after a little goofiness with some of those negotiations, and now for the third year in a row, they're going off with a different offensive coordinator. And I mean, Baker Mayfield had a great year last year. The offense was humming. The run game was great. The screen game was great. But you gotta have to kind of ask, like, can they do it again? Can they generate a top offense with Baker Mayfield, one of the best offensive lines in football, and a great wide receiver room? Can they still be competitive against the top teams in the NFC?
You'd have to, I don't know, have to think the fact that they continue to stay relatively competitive despite all the OC changes the last couple of years is a good sign. But Cohen was a pretty special guy,
Seemed like it.
and um, I don't know if they can really replicate kind of what Baker did last year. Maybe they can. I mean, because realistically, like the offense is probably just better in terms of at
Yeah,
least the pieces they have. But I mean, Baker was just balling last year. I
it
don't
was
know if
pretty
it's
ridiculous.
safe to even predict that he could do that again.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I think he threw for over 40 passing touchdowns last year, and if you look at like the list of quarterbacks who have like thrown for over 40 passing touchdowns in a season, it's just like usually like a bunch of like Hall of Fame or Hall of Fame level quarterbacks, and then like Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And Baker Mayfield, I like Baker Mayfield. He's got talent. He always has. He's always had the ability to have the type of play style, like aggressive play style that allows you to have 40 touchdowns in the first place. He has some of the prerequisites for that, but he also has pretty clear limitations, especially I think that have shown up when the infrastructure offensively has not been there for him. And
Yep.
so we'll see. But I think a consistent thing with this team, pretty much since they won the Super Bowl, is that they really haven't had a lot of turnover in the roster. They've been able to keep mostly the same crew together, the same core, have had the same head coach with Todd Bowles. And so, if Hassan Reddick can kind of be what he's been in the past, you're looking at a good defense again, too. And so, I don't know. I mean, again, it's kind of one of it's the NFC South, but it is kind of weird to say. But the Bucks are kind of in that situation where it's like you kind of have to pick them to win the division until you see one of these other teams kind of prove that they can take the crown away.
Yep.
Not that the Falcons were terribly far away last year, but
Somehow.
yes, which I mean we can I guess just jump right to that. Last year the Falcons start off with Kirk Cousins. That peters out, and they switched to Michael Penix towards the end of the year. By that point, it's kind of they had a chance to maybe sneak into the wild card, but it was looking pretty hopeless, and they weren't able to, in the end, pull it out. A lot of us, including people on this podcast, thought that the Falcons were in position to take the division last year, and I know we weren't alone in that.
Yep.
But inevitably, especially again, kind of the limitations to Kirk Cousins, as well as the defense not really being particularly good, um, led to that team underperforming overall.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins was quite a letdown for them last year. But
Yep.
going into year two and a full year of Michael Penix, I mean, there's definitely reason for optimism. I think, I mean, he had flashes last year, and you just have to imagine there's no way that he's not just going to play better this year. You'd at least hope.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I do think it's yeah
it is like yet to be seen, I suppose. So can't really, wager that much on it, I suppose.
for sure. They obviously wagered a lot, just spending that eighth overall pick on Michael Penix.
Yep.
Again, that was the danger with that move is that you're investing very high capital, both in the first in the in the cap space with the contract for Kirk and then a high draft pick in the first round, um, just for a quarterback who, yeah, he definitely had flashes at the end of last year. I think a thing that I had an issue with Penix as a draft prospect was that he was older and he's played a lot of football, and so this idea that he's going to like develop into this even more polished and impressive quarterback just doesn't really move me. I kind of assume that what we've seen is probably more or less what you're going to see. But obviously, we don't know that for a fact, and stranger things have happened. Uh, but maybe with what we've already seen, they can, and like you said, like kind of a full off season of working around him, working with the pass catchers. You see something that's good enough to actually be competitive in the playoffs or
Yep.
make it to the playoffs. Um, as far as off-season stuff, not a ton of free agency moves that I'm seeing here.
No, I was looking too, and not really, unless I'm like missing something.
No,
Wasn't
the big
anything
thing,
crazy.
no, really, where they kind of made their noise was in the draft because they obviously the biggest thing that they had an issue with on the roster last year was they had no pass rush, and none of the moves they really made during the season, like getting Matthew Judon, helped that.
Yeah.
So they took it as a point of emphasis going into the draft, where they took Jalen Walker with the 15th overall pick from
Yep.
Georgia, and then they traded back into the first round with the Rams, trading up their own 2026 first um, to take James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. And I don't know, man. I kind of think that this front office is stupid. That's I think I just don't know, man. And maybe it all works out, and obviously like you're when you're gambling like this, you're hoping that if it works out, you look like a genius, and it could be. But trading away a future first for a roster that I still would say is definitely not shown or proven to be complete enough, especially with an unknown really at quarterback,
Yep.
to just be saying fuck them picks. Let's microwave a pass rush, and you know it's risky. It's risky again. It's risky.
It is risky, and like you said, it doesn't hinge off of much of anything. And I mean, you just look at other parts of the roster too, and I just feel like there's just still so many holes. I mean, of course, it's like Bijan is going to be slamming the rock. I mean, nobody's doubting that. But
For sure.
it's like outside of Drake London at receiver, it's still like, I mean, you got Darnell Mooney and like Ray McLeod. It's like you don't have a ton there. Tight end, you have an absolute bomb in Kyle Pitts, and it's like I don't know how many people are gonna even really be there to help Penix out. And you're really hoping that those two first round edge rushers are gonna they have to hit for you.
Yes,
And
pretty quickly.
if they don't, it's just a complete failure. Like you've failed, and you've potentially set your franchise back a couple years because you're not going to have that first round pick next year.
Yes, exactly. Like,
You're already in the
yeah,
hole for Kirk Cousins, so
yeah,
it's like you
yeah,
can't really. I don't know. I know they can like get out of that kind of next year, but
yeah, probably,
even
but
then,
still not good process. And yeah, I know. I would say if Penix can like be good enough, I'm still reasonably high on this offense, because I do think like I mean the simple reality is regardless of what we thought about Darnell Mooney before last year, he was like legitimately really good for the
yep,
Falcons
yeah, he
last year.
was.
And so when it's him and Drake London on the field, with Bijan, you can feel pretty good about that. I did not mention a specific name in that group, because he sucks.
Yep.
And we all know who I'm talking about. And I'm not going to sit here and say this is the year because it's not.
Nope.
You can prove me wrong. Go
I
ahead.
hope. God, I hope he
Go
does.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You prove me wrong, Mister Kyle. But feel pretty good about the offense. But you will not be competitive as a defense in this NFC if those, like you said, those edge rushers don't pan out, or you don't see some I guess some movement or growth in other areas of the ball. And like you kind of have to assume that if the defense is the reason your team is really falling behind this year again, I mean, Raheem Morris might be looking at a short tenure here as the Falcons head coach,
Yep,
considering that's his side of the ball.
100%. Even though it's like, I think in a way, just I don't know. It's one of those teams where, like you said, it seems like it's kind of an issue from the top down. Not trying to make excuses for Morris, but like feels like he really was kind of in a way set up to fail.
Yeah,
If
I
this
mean,
doesn't work up or work out, it's really gonna seem that way. But
everybody thought that the Falcons were going to take an edge rusher or a defender last year with that eighth pick, uh,
yep,
whether it was Dallas Turner or Jared Verse or whoever. But nope. And so yeah,
and
we'll see.
and I mean the Michael Penix pick doesn't look as silly now as it did then because he is the starter and became the starter faster than we thought he would.
For sure.
But
That's true.
it's still a bit of a head scratcher.
Yes, you would have wished then that maybe they had spent that free agency money that they spent on Kirk on a quality player. Uh,
Exactly.
so, but no need to relitigate last year's offseason. Um, yeah. Anything else about the Falcons? I don't know. They were hoping that maybe they can they should be they need to be maybe competitive and maybe take a wild card spot, which will probably mean having to win the division.
Yep. We need to see that Kalen DeBoer, Michael Penix this year. But
I mean,
who
he
knows?
might be free
Both
sometime
of
soon.
them might be in. He might be free soon. Yeah, both of those guys might be in trouble coming up here soon. I mean, DeBoer's
He
already in some trouble. So
he might. I mean, he might be dead already as we speak. I don't know as we're recording this. He
yeah, who
might be
knows?
down.
Anyone in Tuscaloosa might need to fill us in.
Yep, facts. All right, Carolina Panthers had a very rough start to the season last year, with Bryce Young looking like a complete and utter turbo bust.
Yep.
I mean, it was looking like
Looked it looked over. It looked
you
like
you
it was
wouldn't
over.
you could never draft a player with his like size profile ever again in
Nope.
the NFL draft. Like you would have to go undrafted if you were that size. Like that is kind of what was coming out of that because he just looked like he physically was completely unable to play the position.
Yep.
Um, he was like hopping and jumping on every throw to try and see over the offensive lineman. Like it was really bad. Uh, gets benched. Andy Dalton comes in. It immediately looks competent ish, the way Andy Dalton is capable of playing. Then Andy Dalton gets hurt. Bryce Young comes back in. And beep beep boop, he's better.
Yep. Way better. It's like
Yep,
better and I didn't think it was gonna happen. I thought it was wraps, and he came back and
I do too.
seems like he started to figure some things out.
Yep, and I mean he was playing really well. They were having they had the competitive game against the Chiefs where they lost kind of in a heartbreaker.
Yep.
Uh, had some good games, and yeah, you hope that you can just build on that. And they are also hoping to push for the division title this year. I imagine, even though I think that is probably not very realistic this year unless the offense is like humming. Um, but as far as off-season moves, they extended J.C. Horn for big boy money.
Yep.
Um, brought in Hunter Renfro, brought in Rico Dowdle,
My dog
1,000-yard rusher for some team.
sure was.
Um,
Despite not starting until like week 8. But
yep,
anyway.
facts. And some other stuff in here. They traded recently Adam Thielen to the Vikings for some junk picks, and uh, I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Jalen Coker being hurt for the first 4 weeks of the season. Seemed
Yeah.
like they were ready to just plug him in to the Adam Thielen role, and now it's Hunter Renfro, who they had just cut, and
It's
yeah,
kind of
so
strange how
a
that
little
all played out.
unfortunate timing for one team and more fortunate timing for the other. Um, and so we got that, and then I guess staying with the wide receiver room, they draft Ted McMillan.
Yep.
What was it, eighth overall?
8th overall, which I mean I am in the camp that it was an absolute slam dunk. and
It's yeah.
yet to see. I mean, he's a rookie, but was easily the best receiver in the class. That wasn't, Travis Hunter,
Yep.
but a little different with Travis Hunter.
True.
And just imagine he's going to make Bryce's life a lot easier. It
You would
also,
hope so.
though, is interesting because, I mean, them taking Tet there, like, kind of pretty much proves what I mean, anybody who watched any of their games probably already saw that, like, Xavier Leggett is not going to be the guy, even though,
Nope.
he was a
They don't
first
think
round
so.
pick either. And anytime you ever watch him, it doesn't really seem like it either, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, he had some costly, memorable drops in some of those games with Bryce at the end of the season. Where obviously you just hope to get some more chemistry there, even if he's just going to be a big-bodied vertical threat.
Yep.
Hope you can catch the ball when it's being thrown your way. When Bryce is like Xavier's down there somewhere, uh, and yeah, you got him. You got Liga. Hopefully Coker comes back healthy. He looked really good
He did. He did look very
as an
good.
undrafted guy, and so you still have Jatavian Sanders. I feel like he doesn't really get talked about much, even though obviously tight ends can take a little bit longer to come along. So we'll see if there's anything there, and then they signed Chuba Hubbard to an extension during the season last year as kind of a culture setting uh, reward for his work being a good soldier. And with Canales, you just hope that this can all come together from the start, and we don't have any of that bullshit from last year, and they come out firing all cylinders and say, hey, we can compete here in this division. We can steal a game from the Falcons or steal a game from the Bucks and make it a little bit harder, make things a little bit more interesting.
I think it's very possible. And I'm not predicting a whole lot of consistency, but I feel like they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be a team that's going to get some sneaky wins this year. I
It's
have to
very
just
possible.
also think in general that it's going to be better. I mean, you're going to be going into a year where Bryce Young is confident, and we have reason to think that he's just going to go into this year actually look good, look the part for the first time.
Yep.
And I mean, they've the his help is a bit better, but also I do think losing Thielen and like Coker being on IR is going to be pretty tough because I don't
Yes.
really know who you're going to be throwing the ball to besides McMillan in the beginning of the year,
Exactly.
which
Like,
is going to be tough.
yeah.
I mean, maybe Renfro slots in nicely, but they did cut him, so like I don't know. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
still just kind of a head scratcher to me that they cut him and then they do this trade and they're like, wait, hold up. We don't have a
Yeah.
slot guy anymore.
Whoopsie.
Guess we'll bring him back.
Whoopsie. Yeah, it's if it was fantasy football, there might be an argument to veto that trade and undo it, but
Yep.
not under these circumstances, and no takebacksies in the NFL.
Yep.
And yeah, Thielen is just like, I mean, he's one of the most sure-handed receivers, maybe still in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. He made some pretty ridiculous catches even last year, just purely with his hands. And I mean, there's definitely a flip side where he's not very fast anymore, doesn't really have any burst, and so you kind of have to scheme things up for him to be open. But he is somebody that even if he doesn't have separation, he can play contested catches, and so losing that is definitely tough for somebody like Bryce. And yeah, we'll see how they adapt to that, especially at the start of the season.
Yep.
Um, the defense might still be terrible. I
Yes.
think that's probably the side here that we need to put in there, to where this team is also just not ready to actually compete, because you extend J.C. Horn, like, good. You kind of needed to do that, but it's a lot of money. And I mean, they like signed Pat Jones, who was on the Vikings last year, and like he's a fine rotational DT, but like, I don't know, man. Not going to solve your problems.
Nope.
And so yeah, there's reason. I think in a weird way, in a really uh, frustrating and difficult and shitty way, the arrow has generally been pointed up for the Panthers over the last couple of years.
True.
And
Which
you just
it,
hope
it
you
seemed pretty dire last year and the year before. So
it did. So you hope this is a nice, sure, stable foot step in the correct direction. Something that doesn't feel wobbly or shaky. You're like, okay, the offense looks competent. Bryce looks like he can run it.
Yep.
That's what you want to see. And then finally, the last and least, the New Orleans Saints.
Lots of, I guess, kind of lots of moving parts in a way from last year. I mean, they went
Nothing
out
worth
and
talking about.
hired Kellen Moore, which is
That's true. I keep
something.
forgetting that.
Me too. Well, it's like, what's there to talk about? I mean, Kellen Moore is just like took a job, took the worst opening in the league, with the worst
Yeah.
roster, the worst cap situation,
Yeah.
and I just, even if Kellen Moore is a genius, I just think there's like pretty much no way that he's going to succeed in New Orleans.
Hmm.
Which I guess if it's like if you're trying to get a head coaching job, you might just have to take what you can get at a certain point, because maybe that opportunity doesn't come around for you.
Or you could
But
have just stayed on the Super Bowl roster for another year,
yeah,
like like do like the Ben Johnson and just like say, yeah, I don't know if I like what I'm seeing.
yeah,
Uh,
because I mean
but
Kellen Moore like really was like, oh, I really want this job. I just really want to coach up Spencer Rattler, and we're gonna take
yeah,
Tyler Shaw in the second,
yeah.
and we're gonna be deep in the hole in cap space. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. And so last year was just kind of like a God. I don't even remember what happened with the Saints last year.
Well, they were the best team in the NFL for the first 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right. They absolutely fucking Derek Carr did one Elvis mode on the Cowboys,
Yes, he did. I will
and
never
then
forget it.
I think neither will Saints fans probably. The lowest murder rate they had in the city for a solid stretch of time, and then um, it all fell apart, and then Derek Carr fell apart permanently, and
Yep.
yeah, now they have Tyler Shuck on the roster. It seems like the general trend has seemed to be that there's literally maybe no greater waste of a pick in the NFL draft than a second round quarterback. So
Yep.
best of luck to y'all there. And then they decide they're going to start Spencer Rattler, who had promise. There's tools there, there's talent, but doesn't really seem like it's coming together for him too much so far. I mean, we'll see. Again, Kellen Moore, the burden is on you to figure that shit out. Uh,
I wish him luck.
but other than that, they added Brandon Cooks in the offseason, brought him back. Um, they re-signed Jawan Johnson. They extended Chase Young, which is kind of funny.
Oh, they did. That's right.
Uh,
He was
yeah,
pretty
that was
good for
like
them last year, I
true,
think.
true.
But
Uh,
still, it's just kind of funny.
yeah, like I don't know, is he really going to be like a piece, like a pillar for you for the next few years? I don't know, maybe. And then yeah, I don't know what shit else they did. They traded for that for Vele.
Oh yeah, which was baffling. It's an absolutely
So
baffling
uh,
decision.
now their wide receiver core is set with Chris Olave, who is very good, Rashid Shaheed, who is pretty good as a vertical piece, and then you've got Jawan Johnson, who is he hurt? I feel like Jawan
He
Johnson may be
might be.
hurt. I don't know. Maybe I made that up. Um, but and then they have Brandon Cooks, who's also a vertical guy, and so
He got hurt in July, but it seems like he's fine.
okay, okay, perfect. Uh,
I do think that this is like, honestly, at least in terms of especially the receiver room, I think it's pretty decent. I think it's
yeah,
like
it's
maybe
playable. It's
even
fine.
pretty solid. I don't know. Olave Cooks and like Shaheed, I think is a pretty nice three.
He is. He is
Um,
for sure.
but I mean, the problem is it's like it's Spencer Rattler throwing him the ball, and like
Yeah,
who knows how long that's gonna last. And if it changes, it's probably just gonna be even worse.
you might be onto something.
And I I don't know. I like look at this defensive roster and it just doesn't. It's not very inspiring to me.
Oh no, it's not. It's not very inspiring. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, not much to be inspired by. Not much to be excited by. They drafted another. They drafted a tackle in the first round. Obviously, that offensive line has needed a lot of work. So you hope that Calvin Banks can be a guy. I mean, at this point, I think it's tough because I think the Saints still have not really treated this whole situation for what it is. Like they're not rebuilding. They're not really scrapping it,
Yep.
even though it like looks like they are because it's like they're in the pits talent wise, but like they're not setting themselves up to like take the upswing here. It feels
No.
like they're just staying in this weird mix of like shittiness with like random old veteran players on weird deals and then some young players that you hope will work out, but then you still don't have the quarterback or the offensive line to even like pretend like you're competing. And so,
I mean, I feel like that the Vele trade like sums up the entire thing with the Saints for years now.
uh-huh.
Just like you're trading for an old bastard. He's what, like 27 or 28 or something.
Yeah,
But I mean, he's only been in the league for 2 years. He's an old bastard,
he really
and
is. He's an old
you
bastard.
are significantly overpaying this guy. And they talk about like they wanted like a veteran or like leadership or something. Like that was kind of the why they traded for him. They like liked that part of that aspect of him, which is like
I
you
think they
have.
also called him. They wanted a young guy. I think that's literally what they said.
What did they say? A young guy.
I think they literally said they wanted like a younger guy.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but he's the same age as Shahid. He's
Damn,
younger
Shaheed
than
that
Chris
old?
Olave. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
or I'm sorry, he's older
older.
than Chris
Yeah,
Olave. My bad. 2 years older.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it is kind of, especially looking at these ages, a bunch of old birds at receiver. I mean, your youngest piece is 24. So,
Yeah.
which I mean
And
doesn't like really matter, I guess, but
it's a problem though because you need to be like what's you just don't see like the simple reality is whenever this team is competitive, like you're just not convinced that like maybe like any of the pieces are on this roster.
mm-hmm.
Any of them. Like is Shaheed going to be on this roster in 3 years
No,
when he's
like
30?
Kamara won't be. That's for
Kamara,
sure. That's
I
been
was going to
like
say
your
they have
most
not been able
consistent piece
to.
for the last like 10 years
They
almost.
haven't even been able to bring in a single like competitive running back piece, like to at least like take some of the load off of Kamara and like give yourself some like young hope at that position. It's just been Kamara or nothing, and
I mean, whiffing on draft picks like Kendry Miller,
yeah, can't be doing
Devin
that.
Neal, I think is just, I don't know. We'll see, but I think he's just garbage. I don't think there's any way that
Cut my
that's going
dog
to
Cam
work out.
Akers.
Yeah, Cam Akers. Yeah,
Um, so yeah, things don't look good, and
no,
don't really have that much to say about them. I remember Josh did the whole rant about them last time,
yep,
and so good luck, Saints fans. Uh, I guess your best hope is that you hit the quarterback next year.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, they could take a, well, not Arch Manning #1 overall anymore.
it's got to be Nussy.
Yeah,
Just watched him last night tear it up.
yeah. It might very well might be. His Arch looked terrible.
Yeah,
Bryce
yeah.
Underwood's not old enough yet. Sorry, y'all.
No, he's still a few years away. Sorry. Uh, all right. As far as how I expect the division to play out, pretty much the order that I said it. That we went over them, and
Yeah,
just like this, I kind of expected to go the same way as it did last year. Uh, Bucks probably win it. Falcons maybe keep it close. Panthers are a wild card, and Saints are dog.
I agree with you. I feel the same way. I think like the Bucks will probably finish with a similar record. The
Yep.
Falcons, I mean the Falcons I think are the have the most potential to surprise, but I just am not
Yes.
I'm not convinced it's going to happen. I
No.
do think the Panthers will like be better than they were last year though. Like I don't think they're going to finish 5-12 again.
No, I
We'll
don't think
see,
so either.
but I don't think it's going to be that bad. Where the Saints were 5-12, and I think they might be lucky to win 5 games this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like I feel like probably they've got to be the team that's going to get the number one pick.
Rattler's gonna. It's gonna be. I think the Saints and the Browns are just gonna be battling for it all year because it's just like with both of those teams, the starting quarterback might just start like 3 games and then they switch to one of the other ones,
Yep.
and it won't be any better, and then they'll just keep losing and they won't have anywhere to go, and then one of them signs Ryan Tannehill, and
Oh, Ryan Tannehill. When's the last time he played a snap?
whenever he last played a snap for the Titans
Holy moly!
before Will Levis took over end of 2 years ago.
Wow. All right. Cool.
Yeah,
Bring him back.
because he got hurt. Yeah. All right, that's the NFC South. Um, let's move over to the NFC West. Another interesting division. Was very competitive last year, as it often is. A lot of switching around who was at the top of that division throughout the year. One point it was the Cardinals, one point it was the Seahawks, the Rams. Funny enough, the Niners were kind of out of it. Uh,
Just strange. Didn't see
yeah, we'll
that
get
one
to
coming.
them. A lot of injuries on that team last year. But starting off with the Rams, who did end up winning the division. Yeah, they were definitely kind of a hot and cold team. Had a very slow start, but then you saw towards the end of the year that when Stafford is Staffording, there's not much you can do about it. And the defense came along well. Jared Verse was great as a rookie, and they were able to surprise some teams, punch some teams in the mouth, and make a decent playoff run.
Yeah, I, it's interesting. I mean, because they're going into this year with a banged up Matt Stafford. Granted, that seems to just always be the case, but
Yeah, but
it's been real kind
I
of
don't know.
suspicious this year, in terms of like what his status actually is. Um, and I mean, they lose Cooper Cup, which, well, I feel like it might be a bigger deal than people are saying, but
Yeah, it's possible.
maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. I mean, you got Puka as your number one guy now. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They restructured Matthew Stafford's deal.
and they
There was
did bring
talk about him
in
getting.
Devontae, of course.
Yes, they bring in Devontae on a 2 year deal. I mean, I think the thing with losing Cooper Cup, adding Devontae is not really an overlapping skill set. They're different
Yep.
types of receivers. Uh, so you are losing like instead of having Puka and Cooper Cup, who have been these like before Puka, Robert Woods, like having these like two like tough blocking wide receivers who get dirty and play physical. Uh, Devontae isn't going to play like that, but he is also just, I would probably argue at this point, still probably a tier better than Cooper Cup is right now
Yeah.
as a receiver because he was still pretty good last year on the Jets, and so you got to feel good about I think what that does as far as like just having another weapon in the offense, but you are losing some skills and some culture setting stuff when you lose Cooper Cup. What else did they do? Ryan Devontae added Puna Ford to bolster the run game. Um, yeah, they re-signed one of their tackles, Alaric Jackson. They re-signed Tutu Atwell to a 1 year deal. I mean, I think how I feel about this team is that even with Matthew Stafford healthy the last few years, there's been like a weird kind of volatility to the team and to the offense, especially where they just haven't always been able to like play as well as we know that they can.
Yep.
Uh, but at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, again, as long as Stafford is healthy, you got to believe that if he gets on a heater at any point, especially towards the end of the year, I mean, they could be as competitive as any team in the NFL. Um, and then they traded away their first rounder for another first rounder next year.
Yep.
Uh, so they got to feel good about that. They drafted Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon as another weapon who could be explosive.
Could be pretty interesting for sure.
They also extended, I forgot they extended Kyron Williams, and so
Oh yeah, they
um,
did. They
a lot of investment in the offense. You feel like they really want that offense to be a little bit more consistent, probably a little bit more kind of week to week dangerous, as long as Stafford is healthy, which I am pretty worried about because from what I'm hearing, it's like potentially like disc issues in the back, and like I don't
Yeah,
really know how
can't
you
have.
play football
You
when you
cannot
have disc
have that,
issues in your back. I
especially
don't
as a
really know how that
quarterback.
works
Yep.
because you're when you're a quarterback, you're twisting that shit and you're getting hit and all types of shit. So yeah, good luck there. So yeah,
Yeah,
the
they're
Rams, I
they're
think it all hinges on Stafford.
it all hinges on Stafford for sure, and this seems like at any year, it might be the least sure of that happening. It seems pretty bad potentially, but
Yeah,
if it works out, I mean, there are lots of things to like about this roster.
definitely.
Especially, I think, I just feel like Matthew Stafford is potentially absolutely going to be slinging it to Devontae. Yeah, I feel like that might be
Yeah,
outrageous. Like if it works
yeah,
out well,
for sure.
but
Uh,
who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, and I mean, you've got to wonder if adding that first round pick from the Falcons, they're hoping that if Stafford just breaks down this year, they can trade up to get one of the top quarterbacks
Yep,
in next year's draft. It's possible,
it is possible.
but I think for this year, they're hoping. I mean, they're very much clearly hoping to make a Super Bowl run again. While Stafford is here, so that's the goal, regardless. Anything less is going to be a disappointment. All right, Seattle Seahawks.
Interesting one.
Oh yeah, always is an interesting one. Kind of underperformed as they tend to do last year. Um, yeah, we're kind of in it at points, but there were just kind of again inconsistencies on the offense, volatility to Geno Smith's game, especially with how the offensive line was. Uh, yeah, some struggles with turnovers in the red zone. They signed Cooper Cup from the Rams, a little in division shenanigans. They signed Sam Darnold
Yep.
as their quarterback of the near future after trading away Geno Smith to the Raiders. There is jury's out on how that will age because say what you will about Geno, he still played pretty well again, especially for how some of the line was playing last year. But I guess you hope that I don't know what you hope with Sam Darnold, honestly, but they're hoping, and
I
we'll
don't
see
know
how it
what you
goes.
hope either, but
Yeah, they get Clint Kubiak from the Saints as their new offensive coordinator. Um, I think there's maybe some reason to believe that that infrastructure could help. I think that's definitely what they're betting on is that this marriage of Kubiak with Darnold and everything. They drafted a first round guard, which is something that's been kind of a joke for the GM of the Seahawks for a while now, is that he wouldn't draft first round offensive linemen.
yep.
They desperately needed it. So, oh, and then did they cut MVS?
They cut MVS. They did
They
cut
cut MVS.
MVS.
No MVS on this team.
Nope. What a
Sorry.
shame. What a shame.
Yeah.
They did take they took Arroyo, that tight end in the second. I'm pretty high
Mhm.
on him. Could be a good weapon. They like their tight
Yep.
ends in Seattle. And
Yep.
they took Jalen Milrow in the third, so
They did.
if Darnold can't get it together, who knows what we'll see there. But
I mean, clearly he was carrying that Alabama team.
they clearly, clearly, I mean,
uh,
wowee.
yeah, yeah. So there's maybe something to get excited about with Milrow. Kind of one of those ultimate what ifs. Like
Yep.
oh, but if he hits,
Interesting dual
and
threat for sure.
and that's where it's like perfectly fine to take a shot on one of those in the third round, even though those also rarely work out into being starting quarterbacks. It's less of a commitment compared to a second round pick. capital wise. And so, yeah, you can see how that goes. But I mean,
They did trade DK Metcalf.
that's another big one. They
That was
trade
a big
DK
one. And
DK to the Steelers.
I guess you replace him with Cooper Cup, which is another instance of very different
Yeah.
skill sets, very different types of
Yes.
receivers. Where I almost feel like Cooper Cup and JSN are like a bit more, quite a bit more similar in skill set, which is
Yeah.
why I feel like
I
it
think
was
it's
kind
fair.
of a weird signing.
Yes. I feel that. I mean, the free agent market for wide receiver was pretty bad this year.
Yes, it
Not a
was.
lot of great answers for teams that needed a wide receiver. I'm sure that played into it pretty heavily. Um, yeah, it's just like it just doesn't. I do think there's a chance that this adds up to being a better offense than last year. There's a chance. I don't think it's a great one, and I don't think it's like a sure thing. And even if the offense maybe like efficiency wise is better, I'm not convinced that with Sam Darnold you are more likely to win any more big games than you were with Geno Smith, which seemed like that was the issue. Is like Geno Smith isn't getting you over the top, not getting you over the hump.
Yep.
But I would still probably take Geno Smith in like a big game than I would in Sam Darnold as of now.
Same.
Um,
I just
and
like
yeah,
it's just one of those moves. It's like it's so lateral, right? It's like
mm-hmm.
you either barely improve or it's barely worse. Is like my thought.
Yeah,
It's just like it's one of those things
yeah,
where I just feel like they I don't know I guess what else exactly they could have done, but I just think anything but this would have made more sense. So it's like, do you really think this gives you a better chance to compete? I just don't see any way that that's true.
no, it feels very, um, yeah, it just feels like treading water. It just feels like you're okay. We'll have another season of like mostly watchable football, hopefully, and the season will end in December and
Yep.
on to the next year. And then you figure out, oh, do we stick with was Darnold good enough to bring him back another year, or do we start to shake shit up, or and yeah, just like I think at this point, what you really hope is that regardless of what happens with the offense, the Mike McDonald defense takes a step, and you kind of see why they hired him, at least on his side of the ball. I think there's definitely the pieces are there for that to happen.
Yep.
Uh, they have Witherspoon, they have um, Byron Murphy, who they drafted last year,
Yeah.
who was good for them.
They traded for Demarcus Lawrence, or well, they didn't
That's
trade for
right.
him. They signed
Yeah.
him, but
Yeah. Um, we can also, I guess, going back to the offense real quick, we could mention they also drafted Torrey Horton, which I guess people have seen some good things from him in training camp and in preseason, wide
yeah,
receiver in Colorado State. So maybe he ends up being a bigger piece here
they
vertically.
have a dog in Jake Bobo.
That's right. That's right. Uh,
It's his year.
golly, isn't every year Jake Bowl year?
Yeah,
Um,
but this is really it.
yes, never been more wide open for him. Uh, yeah, I don't know. There's not really that much to say about the Seahawks. I think they're just going to be like maybe in like a similar camp to like the Falcons, where they're maybe trying to push for the division, but unless again maybe the something happens with Stafford and the Rams fall off, maybe then we're saying okay, the Seahawks might just be one of the teams that gets in by default,
Yep.
uh, and that's what they're hoping for with Darnold is just be good enough to be in the dance. But that's also just been where they have been with Geno. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, yeah. Well, moving on. Arizona Cardinals. Another kind of interesting team that was also in the mix for the division at some point during the year. They had an interesting offseason. They bring back Zay Jones, Jacoby Brissett as the backup. They bring in Josh Sweat on a big deal.
Yep.
They bring in Dalvin Tomlinson. They bring Blaise Campbell back. Uh, they extend Trey McBride big time.
They did. He earned it.
He sure did. Um, and then as far as draft goes,
They took Nolan, Walter
took Walter
Nolan in the
Nolan.
first, which I mean, you pair that with basically a lot of those defensive guys you just mentioned, and Campbell,
Hmm.
Tomlinson. It seems like it should be, I mean, one of the best defensive fronts they've had in a pretty long time.
Yep. And yep, yeah. You bring in Will Johnson in the second round, which could end up being a steal.
Yep, I mean, he's an
Uh,
absolute dog for Michigan.
I mean, you got to be. I think if you're a Cardinals fan, last year was frustrating, but I think overall, like when I look at the Cardinals process, I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen over the last few years from this group. I think you got to feel good about how they've worked to add young pieces on the offense, not getting ahead of their skis as far as just kind of slow building this roster. And but I think as soon as you start seeing those big money deals go, you got to wonder, okay, do they see themselves as it's time? It's time to lock in again. It's time to try and see if we can win something with Kyler Murray, with this coaching staff. See if the combination of Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride can be threatening and consistent enough to with their run game to be competitive in the NFC as well. And I think that the Cardinals are definitely in position where they could surprise if some of this young talent finally kind of shoots upward. If Marvin Harrison kind of moves closer to what his billing was coming out of the draft, if he can clean up some of his chemistry with Kyler Murray. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a reason to fear the Cardinals.
I agree. I agree for sure. I feel like you said, it's been a slow process, but they've been like putting these pieces together for a while. And last year was frustrating, but they were only like what 2 games back from winning the
Yep.
division, and they were competitive in a lot of
Yeah.
games. And I just got to think year 2 of Maserati Marv is going to be better. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
McBride is going to continue to tear it up.
Mm-hmm.
Old man James Conner still going to be
Mm-hmm.
pounding the rock. Maybe we'll see my dog Trey Benson get some more touches this year. I was high on him.
Maybe.
We'll see how that works out. But and the
Yeah.
defense definitely looks the best I think it's looked in a pretty long time for them.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reason for optimism here, especially when you're thinking about things like the health of Matt Stafford and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the Seahawks quarterback is Sam Darnold. I think there's definitely a reason
Yes.
to be excited if you're a Cardinals fan.
Yeah. I think division games are going to be big for just trying to see, okay, where do we stack up?
Yep.
Even with the next team we'll talk about with the 49ers, I don't expect them to be fighting for last in the division next year. And so um, I think a big thing for them is just kind of seeing, okay, where do we stack up? Do we stack up a little bit better than it looked like we did last year? And I think a lot of that, big football analysis here, like we said with the Rams, a lot of this is going to come down to the quarterback.
Yep.
And I think for the Cardinals, it's important to really start having that. And I don't know if they ever really stopped, but I think it's time to really have kind of the like this is time to really evaluate is Kyler Murray the guy for you when this roster kind of hits its peak, or do you want to start maybe saying, okay, this roster is coming together, but do we want to kind of keep the seat warm for the next guy and bring something new in and see if you can if once you're a quarterback away if you can compete with somebody else because Kyler's been inconsistent,
Yep.
especially last year. He has flashes where you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy, and then there's times where you're like, not so much the guy.
Yep.
And his athleticism and his running ability, I feel like, has a factor as far as like offensive efficiency. It still helps him extend plays, but it isn't been as much of like a weapon. And I think that's something that like if you're not using Kyler Murray on the ground, if you really want to keep Kyler Murray, that's kind of how I feel. I don't know if you just want Kyler Murray to be a guy who's throwing the ball and extending plays and then throwing the ball. Like I think you want Kyler Murray to be a guy who's like Lamar Jackson, who is taking chunks on the ground regularly. And so hopefully you see a little bit more of that to really like if you really want to be afraid of this team. I think that's what you need to see.
Yep. 100%. I mean, one of those athletes that definitely is capable of doing all that, but
Mm-hmm.
simply needs to tap into it. And I mean, it's just like if you do have that ground game from him as well as Connor, and I mean, you just have those massive receiving threats in Marvin Harrison Jr. if it works out, Trey McBride. It could be a pretty nasty offense. It's very possible.
Yep,
It's
it's
just like,
possible.
will he finally in what, year 7 or I don't even know at this point.
Six,
6. A long time either way. If it'll finally like actually happen, but I will say
right?
November 14th is when Black Ops 7 comes out.
Uh
So we
oh.
might see a dip in November, and that's when the games
Uh
get real important.
oh.
So
Uh.
who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Call of
Good luck,
Duty
Ryan.
Kyler.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the Cardinals. And then finally, we got the 49ers, who, yeah, definitely surprised this year.
It was beautiful.
With,
I'll say it.
yeah, with seeing them just kind of fall apart with injuries on both sides of the ball. Uh, I
I
think it
mean, they
was,
just
yeah,
got decimated.
it was brutal and just tough to win games when you're, it's definitely jarring to go from seeing the team that's been kind of the juggernaut the last few years as far as just having an absolutely ridiculously stacked roster to then, okay, you get all these injuries and some regression, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, team's looking kind of worse for wear. Um, but I don't personally expect. I don't know if I expect them to ever really bounce back to what they were in the last 2 to 3 years. I don't think the roster is still that good. I think they've definitely lost a lot of pieces in the off seasons,
Yep.
um, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But also you lose, like, Debo, who's been kind of a pace setter for that offense for a while, and yeah, you extend Brock Purdy, which I think that makes a lot of sense because I think even despite all the injuries, including to the offensive line last year, Brock Purdy still played pretty well.
Yep.
I mean, I would say even very well for what he was dealing with, and so you gotta feel good about him being the guy now. And then what else did they do? They extended
They
George Kittle,
they did. They
added Bryce Huff in a trade.
I guess the big one lately is they added um Brian Robinson,
Yep. Yeah, which
which I think is pretty solid. It's a good move. Something happens to CMC, got a
yeah,
pretty good backup, pretty capable
yeah.
backup there.
You do wonder always when a team gets rid of a back like that because it's not like the obviously we're all very excited about uh Jakorski Merritt or whatever. But I think there's always a question of like, okay, y'all just really just like send Brody away.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that is an interesting addition to the offense. I mean, is he better than Jordan Mason, who you traded away earlier in the offseason?
Yeah.
I don't
I
know,
don't know either.
but I guess we'll find out.
The but
Uh,
also the thing is, I mean, they are so just absolutely still decimated at wide receiver. They have nobody to catch the ball, and really, I guess all they did was go trade for Sky Moore, and
yeah, they got Demarcus Robinson from the Rams on a 2 year deal with them. Can be okay,
yeah,
but
you
it's
go
going to
into
be Kittle and Pearsall for most of the year. It seems like.
which like I imagine Pearsall I guess gets fed, but I'm just like not. I don't know how convinced I am about how well that's gonna work. Juwan
Yeah, that's
Jennings
fair.
is a beast, but
They got
when
to
he's
sign
banged
him.
up, and they got to sign him. We don't know when and if Ayuk will be back. Plus, it seems like he wants out of there anyway,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's all kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, which I know it's always tempting with assume that he's going to get hurt, but I mean, 2 years ago he was healthy the whole year, and so we'll see. But if we assume that McCaffrey stays healthy, Kittle stays healthy, Pearsall stays healthy, the offensive line stays healthy, Purdy stays healthy, um, you still have a pretty with Kyle Shanahan. You still have a pretty scary offense. I think Purdy has shown that he can very consistently play at a top 10 quarterback level. during the regular season and during the postseason. So uh, I think they'll be definitely still very competitive for this division, especially on offense. I think on defense, it's interesting because you bring back Robert Saleh after a few years stint in with the Jets.
Yeah, and then
Obviously, when he was there,
they
mm-hmm,
no, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. Um, yeah, they bring Robert Saleh.
And they
They
bring
draft a lot on defense this year. Their
yeah,
first five picks were all on defense. Um, you lose Charvarius Ward, who basically didn't play for you last year because of family tragedy. Just can't do anything about that. So you move on from him. So I think the talent, you lose a lot of players on the defense. They lost Funga, they lost Greenlaw, they lost Hargrave. They lost all these guys.
a lot of
They did bring in
guys.
Bryce Huff from the Eagles, who underperformed on the Eagles after getting traded from the Jets 2 years ago.
Yep.
Maybe he can get back to Jets form with the 49ers. Uh, just feels like this team is kind of probably more like all like very solid, very good, but not the juggernaut they were a few years ago. Depending on again to what extent Kyle Shanahan can work his magic with this offense.
Yep. They did. Isn't this they promoted Clay Kubiak? And then also the big thing
Yeah,
that was said
that's
this
right.
year. So
That's
that'll be
true.
interesting. It could be pretty good. Also, very
Yeah,
well might not be. I mean, I don't know yet to see, but reason to believe it would be fine. I mean,
true.
Shanahan's still your head coach, so
Yes, I think there's
there's
a yeah.
plenty of reason to be optimistic there. But he just doesn't have that much to play with, at least at the beginning of the year. So many guys
Nope.
still hurt and out.
Yeah, I'm just kind of assuming Ayuk isn't going to be much of a factor on this team until maybe the postseason, um, or late in the season. We'll see. Uh, yeah, yeah. So a team that I think is hoping just to get back on track and show that some of their core pieces, Kittle, Purdy, um, can get it done. Um, as far as how the division will shake out, I think it's interesting. I say, assuming everybody is reasonably healthy, because we can't really do this based off of like assumptions that Stafford isn't going to play or things like that. Uh, I would assume it'll be the Rams probably being real competing pretty closely with the 49ers. Then probably I don't know. This is a competitive division. I feel
Yeah,
like the Seahawks are probably going to be going at it, and maybe stealing some games from the other teams. Whereas I really kind of mostly feel like it's going to be the 49ers and the Rams actually fighting for a division spot. But it could be one of those the other team is taking a wild card spot. I think that's very possible.
yeah. I I don't know. This is like, at least looking at the NFC, I think this is the hardest one to rank
Yeah.
because I feel like, and it's like kind of hinging a lot on it, but I feel like there's a real chance that the Cardinals actually could win the division this year. I
It's
think
possible. It's
the thing
possible.
is though, I'm not gonna like say I have to pick the Rams just based on consistency, but the Stafford stuff just, I mean, it's worrisome.
It
Stafford
is
stays
worrisome.
healthy, I just feel like they definitely win the division. But
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks and the Niners, I just feel like I don't know if the 49ers at the beginning of the year are going to be able to overcome a lot of these injuries and holes, especially in their defense. It kind of worries me,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's a decent chance that they shake out similar to last year, except I'm maybe going to move the Cardinals over the Seahawks and have them finish second. And
Yeah.
the Seahawks and Niners maybe finish around the same record. But
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I don't know. I think the Rams are
It's possible.
probably still going to win it, but we'll see. I mean, Kyler could go out there and suck, and I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
And Sam
I,
Darnold, I guess, could go out there and tear it up, but I don't really believe that. Um,
yeah. 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 No, I get that. I think the Seahawks definitely feel like they have to me feel like they have really the widest range of outcomes. But I do think if the Seahawks, especially if the Seahawks defense plays at the height and the level that I think they maybe can this year, and they could play at like a top five level. I mean, that can take you a long way.
Yep.
even if the offense is kind of so-so. Um,
That's
okay,
true.
let's move on to the the NFC North, shall we?
All right.
Let's rip off the band-aid. Um, guess we got to start with the Detroit Lions,
Oh yeah.
who won the division last year by the skin of their teeth. Um, let's see. I mean, this was the most competitive division in football last year by a country mile. One of the most competitive divisions in football ever. Um,
Yep. It
they were
was pretty outrageous.
pretty much only were losing games to each other. At least the top three teams, and yeah, it was wild. It was a wild one, but ultimately the Lions, who were the favorites going in, were able to stay on top, make a deep playoff run, and then crumble in spectacular fashion once more.
Yep.
Uh,
They
and
sure did.
they lose both of their coordinators. They lose Ben Johnson to become head coach of the rival Bears, and they lose Aaron Glenn to be the coach of the Jets. And so you're looking to replace two of the what have been considered the best coordinators in football, um, and two people that have very much been the success of the Lions has very much been attributed to, on top of Dan Campbell. And I think that ends up being really the question, on top of losing their center to retirement.
Yep.
And I think maybe they lost one of their guards as well.
I
Um,
I think they did.
so you're redoing the interior of the offensive line, which is a surefire strength of yours. This pretty much this entire regime, and you lose offensive and defensive masterminds on either side of the ball. But other than that, the roster is pretty fucking good.
Yep.
And obviously, they dealt with a ridiculous amount of injuries last year on the defensive side of the ball, and so um, hard to see this team being bad in any way because the roster is just too good. But there are weaknesses here that have not been in a long time, and they're
Yep.
important weaknesses, and
They are.
they are exploitable weaknesses, and it will all come down to really, I think, how much the new coordinators are able to, especially on offense, are able to work around some of those weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, because their offensive line is definitely, for the first time, looks like, it's penetrable. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like an absolute just wall that
Nope.
where Jared Goff is going to get to stand in the pocket for 18 seconds and 18 seconds, whatever, but damn
Sometimes.
near sometimes. And just air it out to whoever. I feel like there's just no way that Jared Goff isn't going to take a bit more of a beating this year. Teams are gonna get more pressure just by
Yep.
nature of the line not being as good. And I just feel like if that's happening consistently, I just think Jared Goff is going to be consistently getting rocked because he's a statue. And doesn't really get outside of the pocket that much. And if he does, I mean, where's he going? Nowhere fast, that's for sure.
Yes. And
Um,
he's historically bad against pressure.
yep.
He's been better with Ben Johnson, but it's also because pressure doesn't happen very often in that offense, and the structure of the offense is set up very clearly for him to know what to do when he is being pressured.
Yep.
Um, so that will not be there anymore. The run game has been ridiculous, and in large part because both of the combination of the coordinator and the center and what they were able to do with the interior of that offensive line um, was a big part of why they were able to do as much crazy stuff in the run game. So you are just probably inherently losing a chunk of your bag, assuming any part of that bag is still there after Ben Johnson left.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. Again, the talent is all there. Um, I think it's just a question of like without the infrastructure, some of these things there. Does this team just does the fact that they are the Lions play a bit more of a role in how their final outcome of the season and the outcome of games than it has in the past, without this overwhelming counterbalance that they've had.
I just think I mean, I'm still expecting Detroit to be a very good team, but the reality is, I just don't see any world in which they go 15-2 again.
Hell
I
no.
I don't think it's even close to possible.
No way.
Um,
No way.
Especially when I think like pretty much almost, I mean, damn near every other team in this division has probably gotten a little bit better, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I
Maybe.
think it's going to be even more competitive this year than last year. It's very possible. I don't know if like I in terms of competitive if like we're going to have 15, 14 win teams in this division again, but I feel like they're all going to be real close to each other.
Yeah.
Very well
Yeah.
could be all of your wild card teams, or at least two of them, are like coming out of this division again this year.
Yeah. No, I think it'll definitely be very competitive. Um, yeah, but I don't know. I attributed a lot of the success of the Lions to the coordinators, and
Yep.
I just am not convinced that Dan Campbell on his own is going to be able to just make this ship run quite as like hum quite as consistently and as well as it has in the past. And there are plenty of teams that have really good rosters, um, with quarterbacks that have weaknesses like Jared Goff that can be exploited and that will inevitably lead to a few more lost games than in the past. Um, but Lions fans have been very, very quick to remind us, and maybe one of the first fan bases that I know of that has argued that their third round wide receiver three, rookie wide receiver three, is going to push them over the top and win them a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like okay.
Hey, it's sick that Isaac Tesla has caught some touchdowns in the preseason, man. That's awesome. I'm glad he's going to make the team.
Yep.
But like, sorry y'all, like that's just like sweet, like cool. You like, I don't get it, man. Like, wake up. Maybe he's a beast, and maybe he takes the NFL by storm.
But
I see some
also,
people already saying he's the next Cooper Cup, but like, sure,
I
man.
you can say all of this, and maybe all of this could even be somewhat true, but this team has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. I mean, they have Jameer Gibbs in the passing game, and they have Sam Laporta, who they all need to feed. All of those guys are going to be getting more target share than Tesla. There's no way that that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, unless Isaac Tesla is in fact some kind of like a Pro Bowler beast, and he just takes the targets away. I don't think so. And again, if he ends up being really good or a contributor, props to Brett Holmes. I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but uh, yeah, I think whether or not y'all make it to the next level is going to have a little bit more to it's gonna have to do with stuff other than um, whether or not you drafted Isaac Tesla in the third round and he works out.
Yep.
Um, I don't want to talk about the Lions anymore.
Yep.
Uh, let's talk about. I guess we got to talk about the Vikings next. They're next up. Um, hmm. What to say about the Minnesota Vikings?
The floor
By
is yours.
anybody's by anybody's standards, we overperformed last year. There were some people who said that we could finish with the first overall pick going into last year. That was a thing that I saw from supposedly reputable sources. That did not happen. We very much did not do that. Sam Darnold was able to rediscover some of why he was picking lots of arm talent, lots of athleticism. Uh, Kevin O'Connell was able to get that out of him, get 14 wins out of him. Some of them were prettier than others, and then also the defense very much took a huge step forward with the offseason additions. Grenard and Van Ginkel and Cashman. They were an absolute buzzsaw. We get to 14 wins. We play the Lions for the first seed and shit the bed. And then we go and play the Rams in the wild card round and we shit the bed. And a lot of that came down to the offensive line, especially the interior. You lose Darisaw halfway through the year, which is brutal. And then Darnold just kind of goes back to being a pumpkin. And so lose Darnold, come into this year, JJ McCarthy. It's his time. Uh, the Vikings very much bolstered the offensive and defensive season. We added Will Fries. We added Ryan
Yeah.
Kelly, both from the Colts. We drafted Donovan. What's his name?
Donovan Jackson.
Donovan Jackson, the guard slash offensive tackle from Ohio State, to immediately be an impact for us. And so hopefully that is going to be better for sure, and build to actually having one of the better offensive lines in football, which would be a great thing for a Vikings fan who has not had that in a very long time. And then we also added Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave to the defensive line, especially the interior, which was also a source of weakness. We re-signed Byron Murphy. We trade for Jordan Mason to be more of the bruiser running back that we haven't really had a consistent guy for in a while. And we re-signed Aaron Jones to keep doing what he's been doing. I obviously could go on and on and on about all the offseason stuff that the Vikings did in detail, but I'd say big picture, the roster as a whole, I think is better. I would say even markedly better. And I think that we have the makings of something that can be competitive in the very, very near future, perhaps as early as this year. But I, personally, as a Vikings fan, feel no pressure to even make the playoffs this year. I don't care. I just want to see JJ be decent. That is pretty much all I personally care about. Obviously, I think most people would agree the success of this team hinges on how good he can be from the beginning, because the roster is so filled out. But it's also he's a guy who is very young, and I'm willing to just say, get out there, play some football, show some flashes, win 8 or 9 games at least. Hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I would think it all hinges on McCarthy, because I mean, so much else is set up in ways that it seems like it hasn't been in a while. He just filled out lots of holes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
lots of position groups that just like you look at the roster and you're like, man, this is pretty
Mm-hmm.
impressive. And they had a great offseason. But it's like, how much can you expect from JJ McCarthy? It's like, I don't know. We'll just have to see. And I'm
Yep,
expecting him to be good, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect really any of what, essentially rookie quarterback to
yeah,
come out and just instantly get it, be slanging it. But
for sure.
if there's one instance where that could happen, it might be this one, because there aren't many better situations for somebody like JJ to be in than to have an offense like this, receivers like this. So
Yeah,
we'll definitely see. I mean, it definitely just kind of hinges on him.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It feels like obviously the range of outcomes is going to be pretty wide. And again, for me, subjectively as a fan, it's kind of like again, I'm not as much tied up in like what are like team finishes as far as making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, lots of wins. Obviously, I want more wins as a fan, but I'm much more interested in 2026 as far as being competitive. If we can't beat out the Packers or the Lions, we can't make the playoffs. We end up kind of middle of the pack. I'm not going to be super torn up about it as long as I feel like the playing well. The offensive line looks like it's doing what it's supposed to be, and JJ has shown that he can operate the offense that Kevin O'Connell has cooked up. And yeah, so it's just kind of hard to say like where this team is supposed to be in the hierarchy of the division or the conference. I think from just purely the roster, you would say they should be towards the top. Certainly, I think this defense especially can be really scary with that front on the line now. If Jonathan Allen and Hargrave can keep going at the age that they're at. Uh, but I also think there's got to be room for JJ to make some rookie mistakes and to still figure some things out and to get into a groove and a rhythm. I think again he should be able to operate the offense with the amount of time he's had to study it. but just as far as getting the reps, the stuff we've talked about that's been talked about with like Anthony Richardson or Trey Lance or players like that who just didn't get a ton of reps. JJ has more reps than those guys, but he still hasn't thrown that many passes in his career, and so I think there should be room to just say like, hey, like let's. I know it's a lot of pressure because of the roster building has been so good, but I don't think that inherently assume that JJ McCarthy should be a more ready quarterback than he would be in any other situation.
Yep.
Um, yeah, honestly, that's really all that needs to be said about the Vikings because I think they are just kind of a weird case of like wait and see, and lose Addison for the first 3 weeks, but it's just 3 weeks. You move through it. Again, I'm hoping. I think a big thing also is just seeing a better run game. The run game has been bad for all of Kevin O'Connell's tenure. He knows that. He's frustrated by it. I think the Jordan Mason move is a big one,
Yep.
along with, again, the offensive line. I think there's going to be an emphasis on, especially, again, with a young new quarterback, on just pounding the rock as much as and as efficiently as possible. So that'll be a difference from the Darnold year, where it was a lot of explosive passing and not a lot of consistent running. That was winning us games. All right, the Green Bay Packers. Not really much of an offseason to speak of.
Yeah, nothing happened for them. Nothing
No,
interesting.
not particularly.
That's for sure.
Uh, yeah. So last year, one of the competitive teams in the NFC North, but gets swept by the Lions and the Vikings, which was pretty much the difference between them being in the mix and not being in the mix was that they couldn't split with either team.
Yep.
Um, Jordan Love was injured, had inconsistent play, has had inconsistent play his whole career. Hoping Packers fans are hoping he can clean that up, be more consistent. You're hoping Matthew Golden can be a true wide receiver one, somebody you can actually kind of go to with the ball in big situations rather than doing this democratized wide receiver room that they've been doing. Uh, you still got Josh Jacobs,
Yep.
and then the defense solid last year. Xavier McKinney obviously has and then they add a superstar edge rusher and Micah Parsons at the 11, and ruins everybody's fucking day.
Amen. That's for sure. I I think this team is really scary.
Yep.
I think this is like the scariest team it maybe in the entire conference.
Yep.
Especially once you add Micah Parsons. I mean, pairing him
Yeah.
up with like Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, like those guys on the line
Yeah.
is just going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you go if Golden works out, that it's also just going to benefit all of those other receivers who have flashes and have things that they're good at. I mean, I kind of assumed it was going to be Jaden Reed last year. I thought he was the guy,
Yeah.
but taking some load off of him. I mean, you have him as a secondary guy. You still have Romeo Dobbs, who's a pretty consistent player. Other interesting receivers. A lot of it, again, I guess this is every team, but hinges on Jordan Love being more consistent, cleaning things up.
Yes.
But he's got a bit more help, and his defense very well might be able to just bail him out very consistently.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think I picked the Packers. I want to say to win the division and maybe to go to the Super Bowl last year. So never wrong, just early. Uh, well, because I definitely agree. I feel like this team is probably the one team that you're just gonna say like for sure should be able to compete with the Eagles at the top of the conference. I think that's where the expectation is now. Um,
It has to
I
be.
think, I think even
You
with
can't
the
go and
injury
get rid
to
of 2 firsts and not
no,
be expecting to win the whole thing.
yes, that is definitely the expectation and that is the bar. And I don't know. I definitely kind of do feel like this is going to come down to Matthew Golden and Jordan Love. I think it's definitely possible that it just comes down to how consistent can Jordan Love be, especially when you get down to the real important games like if he looks like he has one of those kind of brain fart moments where he throws a nasty pick or just kind of doesn't really seem like he's getting into a groove in one of those big games, like in the playoffs, that's where you start to have questions about, you know, who is Jordan Love, you know, actually. Is he the high end stuff, or is he kind of this guy who just kind of plays sort of funny and can make some really boneheaded mistakes at some important moments? Um, which is, I mean, that there are franchise quarterbacks who fit that description, but it's frustrating, and I think not something obviously that the Packers fans had to deal with Aaron Rodgers. You weren't dealing with too many boneheaded picks in big
Yep.
moments
Nope.
when he was playing ball. So, but yeah, that's enough about the Packers. Fuck them. Uh, on to another team that I fucking hate, the Chicago Bears. They
Interesting group this year.
they bring in Ben Johnson as the head coach. They bring in Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator from New Orleans. They sign Olamide Zacchaeus. They bring in Joe Tooney from the Chiefs, play guard. Um, sign Deo Odeyingbo. Uh, what else? Corner Kyler Gordon got a extension. Jonah Jackson, another guard they added, and then they draft Colston Loveland in the first round, Luther Burden in the second, uh, to add to their weapons for Caleb Williams. So, big picture is adding to the offensive line, adding weapons, changing who's running the offense and who's running the team. After the hilarious disaster that was the last year of Eberflus and company with Shane Waldron, and so once again, we're looking at the Bears saying, okay, they had a great offseason. Looks like they're trying to figure it all out. Looks like they got all the pieces. They got the quarterback in theory. They got the coach, the coordinators, the skill position players, the offensive line. The defense was already pretty decent roster wise, and Dennis Allen's a good defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Where are the excuses? Because every year we're saying there's no more excuse. The Bears produce one, and I don't know. Definitely, it's funny because it is. It's always, I think, kind of unfair to assume in the first year of a new system that the team is going to perform at its best. But I think Bears fans and NFL fans are saying this is the year.
Yep.
Like, show us, at least be competitive, like actually competitive. Like, actually have Caleb Williams playing consistently good football, um, and just make it look normal.
I definitely, this is, I mean, and I guess we say this every year, but this is definitely the best I think the whole roster has looked in a while. But Caleb Williams, especially this year, he's got a year in this. He's got a year under his belt, and I mean, he just has help galore. I mean, it's just like
Yes.
an absolutely stacked offense in terms of weapons. It was really before they even went and took Loveland and Burden back to back, which is still like kind of a just insane thing that they did to me. When you've got Cole Kmet,
Yeah.
you have Roma Dunze, you have DJ
Brian
Moore.
Holzball.
Yep, and it's, I mean, the thing is too, like obviously Michigan fans here, but like Colson Loveland is an absolute dog,
It's
and
true.
I'm on the record being very high about Luther Burden. Um,
Yep.
but it's also a bit of a head scratcher because, like, especially a guy like Luther Burden, like, where does he fit into this? Wide receiver 3? I mean,
Yeah, I
is he
kind
going
of
to
think they
be.
maybe are trying to move more soon. I think that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, which I guess then, like, makes more sense, but I also have to think that, like, DJ Moore probably should realistically still be the number one target this year. I mean, for Caleb Williams.
It's
I guess it
possible.
could be
Should
Roma
be.
Dunze. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we'll see.
and I mean, there's also plenty of reason to still continue to be high on Roma Dunze because he's a good player.
For sure.
Um,
No doubt.
but I mean, Caleb Williams last year just looked so bad.
Record
So
number of
awful.
sacks taken, or close to a record number. Yeah, just looked really uncomfortable. I mean, I think a lot of that you to Shane Waldron's offensive system that was completely dog water, which
Just horrible.
which we called on the podcast.
We
That shit was
did.
going to be bad. That was
We
going to
did.
probably be the reason that shit was going to fall apart was the coach, and it was.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, even besides that, like Caleb just looked really uncomfortable. Didn't really know didn't feel like he knew exactly kind of what he was supposed to be doing. Obviously, we've heard since then that they also weren't helping him figure out what he was supposed to be doing.
Which is so baffling.
It's and
Just
again,
head
this is where you
scratcher.
just with the Bears, I've always been on record saying this is an organizational problem, and until the organization has shown that it's meaningfully changed, I'm just going to assume that something is going to corrode any kind of positive thing that they have going on here, and so I am always in eternal wait and see mode with the Bears. I'm not ready to crown them at all, even with Ben Johnson. I need to see it. I mean, Caleb Williams looked good in the preseason last year. Do
Yep.
people forget that? Everybody's like, "Ooh, wow, he's cool throws that he made in college," and then none of that shit translated, except
Yep.
for a few flash moments. He had some good games last year, but um, as a whole, it was pretty rough.
Yep. I
Um,
I just admittedly though, I just feel like they've got to win more than 5 games this year. They've got to be better.
for sure,
They have
I
to be
would
better
for sure, I would agree with that.
because this is just a better coaching staff that I would have a lot more confidence in. And now I'm not saying again I'm not gonna sit here and be like they're gonna win the division because I don't think even if everything works out perfectly I don't think that's really gonna be the case this year. But
No,
they've got to be better. And Caleb's got to be better, and hopefully, man,
yes,
hopefully they're gonna be helping him.
I do think in the end, if we look at back at recent Bears history, I don't know. You can kind of throw out the Justin Fields Eberflus era a little bit as just being all bad because it seems like the coaching was bad and the quarterback was bad. But you look back at say the Matt Nagy era with Trubisky, and it's I don't know how much of that was really Matt Nagy being dog shit. How much of that was just the fact that they had Trubisky be their guy for a few years and he wasn't the guy,
Yep.
and then they had fucking and obviously Nagy was there for the first year of Justin Fields and that shit was kind of a shit show as well. So maybe it was also Nagy, but all that to say, even if Ben Johnson is a good head coach, Caleb's got to be able to deliver.
Yep.
And obviously, we all thought that he would going into last year, but don't think anybody thought that last year, even in a bad offensive scheme, people thought that he was going to be as bad as he was last year. I don't think anybody thought that was really in the range of out, which is always just good to remember that we don't really know
Yep.
what's going to happen. But yeah, wait and see for the Bears. I agree; they definitely should win more games. Um, yeah, and so should be another competitive division. It kind of a weirdly, it's yeah, definitely been shaken up. All teams have kind of had a bit of a shakeup of some kind. That's reasonably changes our expectations.
Yep.
Um,
And I just think
and
all
with
these teams are going to finish with closer records to each other than last year. And I think they're not. None of them are going to finish with as good a record as Detroit or even Minnesota last year did.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean I think yeah, going to the division rankings, I definitely think we both probably have the Packers at the top.
Yep.
Um, do think there's a chance that maybe if the Packers are that much better, they are the team that could finish with 13, 14 wins.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'll put the Lions after them just because of the talent on the roster. Yeah, and then from there, I'm gonna say Vikings and then Bears. I'll make the Bears prove it because I do think the Vikings still have a very good roster and the coaching staff is proven and
Yep.
we're building on something. We're not just starting over. So even with JJ, I think there's a chance that we can hold them off.
Yeah. I've got it ranked the same way. So
Perfect.
I think really the only. I mean I think the only team. I think the team that has a chance to move up the most in that is the Vikings. Um,
Yeah.
I agree
Sure.
with the Bears. It's I'm just I don't. There's reason to think that they could be pretty good, but kind of also need to see it. But the
Yes.
Vikings, if JJ comes out slinging, I mean, who knows? They definitely could be really good, but
Yes.
I'm not confident enough in that to rank them any higher.
No, me neither.
Especially
Um,
not even. It's like not a knock on JJ really. It's just the fact that I mean Detroit, has a great roster
yeah.
still, and the Packers, I mean, they're terrifying. It's a terrifying team, terrifying roster.
Yes. 100%. No, I feel that. Okay, last division for the NFC. We got the NFC East.
Everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite division. Always important to bring up that they have not had a region winner in quite some time.
They
Um,
haven't. I hope it will continue.
yeah, but the team that did win the division last year was the Philadelphia Eagles.
They sure did.
Um, they were kind of the undisputed top of the NFC for not the start of the year, but as the year went on, it became kind of more clear with Saquon that this team was a buzzsaw, and yeah, they just kind of kept chugging along and never really. And next thing you know, they got a Lombardi. So as far as offseason goes, traded away CJ Gardner Johnson, um, extended Saquon Barkley, traded away Bryce Huff, re-signed Zach Bond. Um, what else?
They extended
Extended
Lane
Lane
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah, yeah.
They got a Dory Jackson.
Dory Jackson. Yep. Drafted Jahad Campbell
I mean, they
into the
extended
first round.
Saquon. Did you say that?
I did say that.
Okay.
Um, yep. Drafted Jihad Campbell in the first round. End of the first round. A lot of people had him going earlier in classic Howie Roseman fashion.
Yep.
Yeah, and so kind of like you alluded to, this team still has a very, very good roster. Not a whole lot of turnover. You lose Kellen Moore. See how much that really matters. The offenses wasn't anything super crazy last year.
No.
Um, they still have Vic Fangio on defense, which I think is probably a little bit more important.
I agree. For
Uh,
sure.
and yeah, I mean, without getting too far into it, it's just like I think they're the team to beat.
100%. I wish they weren't. I just think
Absolutely.
there's pretty much no reason to think that they won't be almost just as successful as they were last year. I mean, they lost some guys, but it's like in the draft and in free agency, they addressed almost all of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're just getting another year with all of these pieces, working together. Another year of Barkley, which he was a workhorse. He took a lot of wear and tear last year, but
He
didn't show
sure
any
did.
signs of slowing down. I
Nope.
mean, you got another year of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts getting his ass pushed in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, think there's pretty much no reason to not think they're going to have a very similar level of success this year, and very well could be the team that ends up, breaking that repeat division winner curse.
Yep. No,
I
I agree.
I'd love to be wrong. Golly, I
Yeah.
would, but I just don't think I am. I gotta
I
be
mean,
honest and realistic here.
yeah, it just feels like really the only way you can probably get this team to really take a step back is if you're able to get up on them and to throw the ball. Because I mean, just the reality is, even then, I mean, they have ways to work around that. But Jalen Hurts is not the best thrower of the football. Still, just doesn't have that much to him.
Yeah,
Never will. Sorry, Eagles fans, he's not that good. Uh, and so, but the problem is their defense has been so consistently dominant, and they just reloaded at corner and safety that just doesn't seem like is probably going to happen too often. And so, if they can keep the score low with the defense and run the ball like crazy with that line with Saquon, it's one of those rare kind of football builds that it's pretty tough to stop
yep,
no matter what. And so it's really not that much I feel like to talk about with the Eagles. That uh,
nope,
they're just the
no,
boring defending champions.
yep.
Moving on to kind of the surprise team. Um, which is the Washington Commanders, one of the most overperforming teams. Obviously, in large part to their superstar quarterback, who absolutely tore it up. Jaden
Sure
Daniels
did.
looks like a phenom,
He does.
uh,
Wish he didn't,
and
but man, he does.
he
He
does. And
looks
so
pretty incredible.
him and Cliff Kingsbury were tearing it up. We didn't have the usual Cliff Kingsbury cliff halfway through the season. I think
Yep.
there's still kind of questions about, will that continue into this year? But if it does, they have Terry McLaurin. You add Debo Samuel, which, like, don't get me wrong, Debo Samuel has definitely taken some steps back in play, but I still think, like, in an offense as creative as Cliff Kingsbury's, um, I do think that is a piece that makes sense to add if you're
Yep.
trying to be competitive now. Um, Besides that, like you said, they traded away
Brian
Brian
Thomas, or
Robinson,
I almost said Brian Thomas.
drafted, yeah,
That'd be something.
drafted. That would be something. That would be a nightmare. Drafted Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt in the seventh round. Seems like they assume he's going to kind of replace some of that
Yep.
production. I kind of assume that Debo will as well. I think that's kind of also
Yeah,
continuing to use Debo as a runner.
I agree. They took Trey Amos in the second, who I
Yep,
like. It's a pretty good
yep,
pick for them.
yep. They re-signed Zach Ertz, traded for Laramie Tunsil,
Yep.
um, signed Von Miller, signed Javon Kinlaw, re-signed Bobby Wagner.
Yep. Brought back my dog Noah Brown.
They had your dog Michael,
Yeah, rest in
uh,
peace, Michael Gallup.
is what it is. And yeah, they did. They also drafted Josh Connor tackle. He's looked pretty good. So maybe improvement on the offensive line, especially a tackle. Got some better weapons. Marginally from last year.
Yeah, I think it's
Uh,
marginal. I think that's the
yeah,
thing about it.
and then the defense is still old
It's
for the
really,
most part.
really old. That's like the thing about this team. I think is like obviously you have a young star in Jane Daniels, and Terry McLaurin is. I mean, he's been around, but you extend him, you keep him, and he's not old. He's a great,
No,
I mean, phenomenal receiver.
for sure.
Somehow still underrated, but outside of like those two guys, on I think the offense and the defense, it's like if you look 1 2 years down the road here,
Yeah,
what's gonna be left? And I guess for this year that doesn't
yeah.
really matter, but I mean, Debo Samuel's getting old. Zach
You're,
Ertz is old. I
you're
mean,
trading away picks for Laramie Tunsil.
exactly. Who I mean, I don't. He's at this point what got to be like 30 something, right? Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, in offensive linemen last a while sometimes, but
yeah, for sure.
um, Bobby Wagner is an old man. I
You sure is.
they're just it's like this roster is old. It's an old
It's
roster, and I do think it's a roster that still like looks pretty good this year, but I just think it's not gonna stay like this going into the future,
yeah,
and
no,
I'm very excited about that. But
for sure.
um, I still think there's reason to think that they're going to be pretty good this year. I mean, teams are going to have a lot more tape on Jane Daniels, which is great.
Yeah,
But I
not
don't
sure
know how
what they
much
can
that's
really
going
do
to
about it.
help. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And we'll see what the running back looks like. I mean, Krosky Merritt looked good in the preseason, but like we said about Tesla, that's the preseason.
yeah,
We'll see. And going into the season with Eckler as your lead back, I just like it's a little scary to me.
for sure.
Another old man, um, but I don't know. There's reason to think that they're still going to be pretty good. I don't think that they're going to. I don't know if they're going to be like 12-5 good again. Um, but it is possible. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't.
Yeah. Another point, I heard the stat. I don't remember the exact number. Y'all will get the gist of it. Or maybe I'll just not use the stats and say what it is. The Commanders converted fourth down last year at an unbelievable rate. It was like 87%. I don't
Yeah.
think any other team had more than like 70% success rate. Maybe one other team did, but like they were in a like a different like category when it came to fourth downs last year, and like that's pretty valuable. That is a very very valuable to
Yep.
be able to do. And Jaden Daniels is obviously that's a big part of what he brings is just the ability to convert. If they can do that again, because fourth downs, I think compared to like third down conversion tends to be things that hovers around average. Like you tend to swing back and forth back to average. Fourth down conversion rates that tend to be a bit more consistent year to year. And so if they found something that lets them do that with Jaden Daniels, if that's a skill set that he just has in his bag, yeah, there's little reason to think that this offense can at least push itself to being in the playoff conversation and again make a run. I mean, have that level of edge
Yep.
on offense.
Yep.
I think that's how they see it. Obviously, very much doing kind of the Texans thing of like, okay, we got the rookie quarterback. He looks like a beast. He's cheap. Let's just make this happen as best we can.
Yep.
Do I think the Commanders are really there? No, but
I don't either.
I don't know. It's hard not to bet on the quarterback when he's as special as he seemed like he was last year.
Yep.
Okay, it's your time.
It's my time.
It's your time. It's your
Well,
time.
all right. I'm gonna try not to talk for too long because it's kind of the same thing where I could talk a lot here. For
Yeah.
the Cowboys finished 7-10 last year. For one, I'm gonna preface but this. Well, actually, I'm just gonna totally interrupt and say that in the midst of recording this podcast, the Cowboys extended Deron Bland,
Oh, I didn't see that.
$92 million.
Damn.
Yep, they paid him. Um,
Okay.
I I like this. I don't know. Some people don't. I think Deron Bland's a really good
I
corner.
see the vision.
Can be up and down. It's 50 million guaranteed, which is like not that bad. I don't think. Um,
Yeah.
Hopefully he can be a little more consistent in terms of staying healthy. But anyway, I just figured that happened in the midst of recording this, so
Yeah.
I would bring it up. And I guess the one of the biggest things, besides Micah Parsons, and we'll get to that, is that we have a new head coach in Brian Schottenheimer, and
Yes, sir.
just simply don't think that anybody can really say with that much confidence like what this is going to look like with him.
Nope.
Never been a head coach, and historically, at least statistically, he has had bad offenses when he's been an offensive coordinator,
Hmm.
like bottom of the league bad. So that's not great,
Mm-mm.
but we'll see. Every time he talks, when I hear him talk, I like what he has to say.
Yeah.
Feels like he gets it, and he seems like he's very much like a player coach, which I think is something like that we were missing with Mike McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy and Dak had like a good relationship, but it just seems like
Yeah.
the kind of like culture building that was there with McCarthy otherwise like wasn't that great, and led to a lot of turmoil. I think like more than I would guess more than like we even know
Interesting.
publicly. Especially like I just hear more and more about this. Um, so I
Yeah.
think in terms of like culture, it seems like it's gonna be like a good hiring in terms of that, but none of that matters if we can't win games.
Facts.
Um, but I guess to get into it, one of the big things is that we traded for George Pickens, which I was
Mm-hmm.
ecstatic about. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic, phenomenal move,
Mm-hmm.
especially considering. I mean, I was excited when we got Brandon Cooks a couple years ago, but that just like didn't really work out how anybody I think thought it would. A lot of that is just him being hurt. Um, but go and get George Pickens. We lose all of our running backs essentially from last year. We don't bring Rico Dowdle back. We get Javante Williams, Miles Sanders. Trade for Joe Milton, which isn't really gonna impact this year. Hopefully, I hope to God he doesn't see the field.
Yeah.
We did go out and get Dante Fowler, which I also think is like an underrated signing. I mean, he was
Yeah.
a Cowboy for a long time, but it's like had 10 sack seasons multiple years in a row.
Yes, sir.
Resign Osa, get Solomon Thomas. I mean, some pretty. It like all things considered could have been a worse offseason in terms of I think the guys that we went out and got. I think it's like been a little better than the last couple of years. Still could have been
Yeah.
better than this. Don't get me wrong, but
For sure.
I do like a lot of those guys. Like getting Kenneth Murray. Also, like, I can't. I'm blanking on his name. The linebacker from the Bears that played with he played with Eberflus. Um,
Um.
Jack something.
Oh. Oh.
Oh my
Oh. Oh.
gosh.
Oh.
Um, I should. I mean, I should know this, but
I should know too.
I'm gonna look and find out here momentarily. Jack Sanborn.
That's okay. That was what I was going to say, but I was not.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on that. I also like a lot of what I've seen from some of these undrafted guys that ended up making the roster, like
Uh
Leafau
huh.
going into second year at linebacker. However, all of that to say that we traded away Micah Parsons for 2 first round picks and Kenny
Yeah.
Clark, which run I understand all this about the run defense being terrible, which it has been for many years, and that Kenny Clark
Sure.
is supposed to help that, but he's coming off of his worst year. It's also old. And like, didn't we basically, pay Osa Odigizua $20 million a year to stop the run? I don't really
Yeah.
like completely understand all of that.
Well, yeah.
I I do think like the defensive line should be like pretty nasty even without Micah Parsons this year. I think there's like a lot to like there.
Hmm.
Um, we I guess we'll see, but like I like getting Ezaraku in the second. I think he's going to be a beast when
Yeah.
Revel gets healthy. I know
Yeah.
it's not the front, the guys up front, but Revel gets healthy at corner. Hopefully that'll help
For
bolster
sure.
up a defense that was pretty banged up last year and is still banged up going into this year. Um, Tyler Booker hopefully can, also protect Dak Prescott. Obviously, the biggest thing going into this year is that we have a healthy Dak Prescott, and I think for some reason people, still, even though he's been in the league for like 10 years at this point, 9 years, like he's still underrated, bit of an
Yeah.
undervalued quarterback. I just
For sure.
think people are like forgetting what the offense can look like when he's on the field. It can be absolutely absurd. I just think if he gets good protection, him, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, um, healthy Jake Ferguson, I mean that could be pretty nasty in terms of moving the ball downfield. But I just don't know how much all of that's going to matter when our defense just unfortunately looks still pretty awful, and it's worse now that we don't have Micah Parsons
Yes.
and we have a head coach who's completely unproven and has a bad track record in terms of. I mean, he's an offensive guy, um, and his offenses have been terrible. But I
Yep.
just like the thing is I don't think there's. I really hope we're not going to be as bad as we were last year. Kind of almost think there's no way that we're as bad as we were last year, assuming
Yeah.
that Dak stays healthy. Um,
Yeah.
but I just don't think this team can compete with Philly. I think it's
No.
possible that this team. We'll see. We kind of have Jaden Daniels. We had his number last year,
It's true. It's true.
but like I don't really know if we can compete with them either. We'll have to see. And we haven't talked about the Giants yet.
Yeah, we'll get to them
But
for
like,
sure.
if our offensive line is not as good
Yeah.
as I'm hoping it will be, especially a
Yeah.
lot of young guys, that Giants defensive line is ridiculous,
Yep.
ridiculous. So I don't know. I think this team like still, and it seems like I say this every year, has like some. It's possible there's a lot of high upside on this team, but I think this is the most down I felt on the Cowboys in like literally maybe 10 years. Um, it's been a
Understandable.
pretty long time since I felt this bad about the state of the team for lots and lots of reasons, not just the roster, not just the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like hopefully we'll be better than last year. We should be better than last year, but I don't think that's going to be enough.
Yeah.
Dak can't
Yeah.
do it all.
No.
CD can't do it all. It's not going to matter if we're able to score pretty often if like our defense is going to be giving up touchdowns potentially every drive.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. I mean, all I'll say is, yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely still lots of good pieces on this roster, and I think with before the Micah trade, I was definitely willing to like just pencil in the Cowboys potentially as like competing for the second spot in the division like easily, especially in terms of how the Cowboys have played against the Commanders.
We own the
But
NFC East. That is the reality. we own
Yeah,
them. I feel like, I mean, I'd hope it at the worst we can split with the Commanders and Giants this year. I mean,
for
we
sure.
definitely own the Giants, but
Yeah, yeah, and but I think I don't know. To me, you lose Micah Parsons, and I think it to me that the whole year just goes out the window. That's how I feel about it. I
yep,
don't think this. I don't think the Cowboys, as presently constructed, are capable of competing in the playoffs. Maybe not even capable of getting there. See, and I don't want to just 180 it, but I think the fact that we've talked about this, I am not moved by the Kenny Clark addition to the run defense. I think the run defense will probably still be pretty bad, which again against especially teams like Philly is just like, okay, good luck with that.
yep,
And then we talked about like, is the pass defense even going to be that good with the corners? I mean, obviously Deron Blaine is a good corner, and you're getting Diggs back healthy, hopefully. So there's upside there.
yep.
Um,
But we might not
but there's
even get
also
to see
question.
any of that until like halfway through the season. We don't
Yeah,
know when Revel's gonna come back, and I mean he's a rookie, so who knows? Like I'm pretty high on him. I think he was a good prospect, um,
yeah,
but like
and,
no
yeah.
reason to think that it is gonna work out. And it seems like Bland and Diggs can never play at the same time. So
Which is tough for sure for that unit. And then there's kind of the piece that I haven't really talked about yet, which is just the run game. You had Javante and Miles Sanders in free agency, and then you had Alpha and Blue in the draft. Um, I think we're hoping for a bit more investment uh, in that position
yep,
in both areas, whether it's free agency or the draft. Um, yeah, I mean, I think Jaden Blue has like the potential to be a good tool in the offense, but never going to be like your back. It's never going to really be like you're going to be thinking, oh yeah, the top running back for the Dallas Cowboys, Jaden Blue. I just don't think that's really in his range of outcomes. See about Mafa. Seems like for now it's probably going to be Javante. Um, and I don't know. You just kind of add that up, and it's like, okay, you know, pass defense, at least coverage wise, not great. Run defense, not great. Maybe you can still have a pass rush of some kind with the defensive line, like you said, but it's not going to be anywhere near what it is with Micah, obviously. And then your rushing offense isn't probably going to be very good. So that really just leaves the passing offense as being your only standout part of your team. And that can win you games. It's a very important part of the team to have a good passing offense.
yep.
Yeah, I think this team's got some soul searching to do over the next few years. Um,
Just also think, I mean, we could sit here and also like talk about the Micah trade forever, but you have so much money tied up in Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I just like,
yes.
I just, we just should have simply paid. We should have paid Micah Parsons and worked around it. I
Yeah.
think it's just like Micah Parsons is such a generational player that like he could figure it out.
100. We haven't. Yeah, we didn't really I guess go in depth about it. Obviously, our feelings about it are clear. Just that we're like not happy about it. It's also just like from the Packers win the trade, the Cowboys lose it as of now, like clearly. And I, yeah, bad trade. Can't
Yep.
be doing that. Um, all right. Finally, we've got the New York Giants, um, which I'm not. I'm not. I don't have a super solid idea of what I think about the team personally, because Russ can be a lot of different things. Obviously, that was a big thing. Was adding Russell Wilson in the offseason along with Jackson Dart and James Winston. You add what else do you add here? You add in the draft. You add um,
Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter.
I mean, they took
One
Dart in the
brain's
second,
not working.
took Scadaboo in the fourth.
Yes, exactly. So you add some pieces to the offense as well as the defense. They had a pretty decent draft last year too, so they are building kind of some young core there. Um, you're adding what else? What else did they do?
They got Chauncey Golston.
Added Javon Holland. That was another big one. Safety. Chancey Golston. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the big things here is that they didn't really add to the catching group meaningfully. I think you're hoping for more from tight end Theo Johnson. I think Scattaboo and Tracy both have skills as receivers. Funny enough, even though Tracy, I believe, converted from receiver to running back going into the draft, um, I think Scattaboo is like maybe even still the better receiver. Um,
Yep.
so that'll be interesting. Uh, Added Darius Alexander in the third round as well. I know a lot of people liked him, the defensive tackle
Yep.
from Toledo. So have the makings of a potentially really good defense, as well as maybe some upside to the secondary with Holland. I think that's kind of what everybody's been talking about, and what I kind of expect the Giants to hang their hat on this year is just to kind of have a really good pass rush. Obviously, when you have Dexter Lawrence, you already kind of have a very good run defense as well, especially up the middle. Um, the real question is the offense, is what they're going to do at quarterback. How long does Russ play? When does Jackson Dart take over? And how does it look with the offensive line? Um, and with pretty much just just Malik Neighbors, which no offense to Malik Neighbors, he's a superstar, but literally just Malik Neighbors at the
Yep.
moment.
Simply cannot do it all by himself.
No, try as he might, and try as they might to make it work. And it's an interesting year. I think obviously, I think the conversation around the Giants, like big picture, is kind of more interesting just because we're all kind of sitting here wondering, okay, like what's going to happen to this GM and this head coach after this year? You know, what is it? What can they even do to get their to keep their jobs at this point? Like they decided, Mara decided to bring them back this year and not get rid of them when they got rid of Jones. What do they have to do with Russell Wilson and company to keep their jobs? Or maybe, probably more accurately to say, what do they have to do with Jackson Dart at the end of the year to prove that they should keep their jobs? And obviously, I think investing in the defensive line is not a bad idea to just kind of maybe raise your floor a little bit. But in the end, it's the bet here is on the ceiling of what you can get with Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart, and I don't know if that ceiling is very high.
Nope. I don't either. I think it's honestly maybe higher with Jackson Dart, but
For sure.
he has no help. He has Malik Neighbors, of course, who, like you said, is a superstar, but Malik Neighbors is going to be getting doubled and tripled every single play because, are you really that scared of Wandell Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton?
Hell no.
No, exactly. Why would you be? And maybe Scattaboo is like a hit. It's possible, but even then, I still just that none of that fixes it.
No. No. Um, I think it's obviously, again, interesting just when you've had this whole time, the only quarterback you've really watched run this offense, like as it's supposed to be run, quote unquote, is Daniel Jones. And even, he wasn't actually able to run the offense. And so I think with Jackson Dart, I think Daboll really is hoping that he's a guy who can actually run the offense that Daboll wants to run, can make all the throws. Um, but that's interesting because, again, a lot of people have talked about this, people smarter than me, talked about kind of the offense he played in Ole Miss, how that offense doesn't really translate to the NFL. Um, and so I'm kind of curious what even the Giants thought they saw in him to make them think, okay, maybe this is something we can translate into the NFL and we can better our jobs on it. Um, yeah, it's a similar kind of wait and see here. I don't hate the direction the Giants are going from a roster building standpoint. I don't think it's too bad. It's too shabby. Obviously, we can question the Saquon move in hindsight, but they moved on, and I like Scattaboo. I'm curious what they can kind of get in the aggregate between Scattaboo and Tracy. Um, but I don't really think it's realistic, even with that defensive line, to expect this team to be meaningfully competitive. Maybe they can kind of be like, at best, sort of like the Cardinals or maybe like the Panthers. Maybe they kind of steal a few games here and there. Um, but at best, kind of a wild card, not in the sense as a wild card for the playoffs, but a wild card just in general as far as range of outcomes and how they might show up week to week, depending on the quarterback and, yeah, what they just bring to the table.
Yep.
Um, All right. With that, as far as division rankings for the NFC East, I mean, again, I'm betting against the trend here to say that the Eagles, I think have to win it again. I mean, if I had to pick a team other than the Eagles, Commanders, um, but I am going to pick the Eagles again to win the division, and then I'll say Commanders, then Cowboys, then Giants. I still think the Cowboys with the quarterback and the receivers. I just am going to assume a higher floor and higher ceiling than whatever the Giants are right now.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to finish that way, and it's the same standings as last year. I think
Yep.
like I don't think the Commanders though, and I'm not sure if they're gonna be 12-5 good again this year. And I'm hoping that the Cowboys are not going to be 7-10 bad this year, but it's very possible.
It's more possible, yeah, than it seemed a week ago. Um,
Yep.
yeah, and so with that, we got we got all four divisions. Um, I don't know. Is there anything we should do to wrap up?
Um.
Uh, so we'll do our, I guess, our Super Bowl prediction maybe at the end of the AFC.
Yeah. Well, we did the Super Bowl prediction as well as like some, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year at the end of the AFC pod, which I think
Yeah,
makes sense because we'll have discussed all
exactly.
the teams first. So I feel
Yeah,
like that seems pretty good for the NFC stuff.
yeah. No, so in that case, that's been the NFC. Hope you all took notes. Um, Hope you all make some very good bets. And if not, I hope that you take the message from God as a sign to stop gambling.
Amen.
Uh, but in the meantime, very excited for this year in the NFC. Feels like there's definitely, like I said, the Eagles are the team to beat the Packers, or maybe um, the main challenger. But a lot of room for teams to move up and down in this conference. And I think we're all kind of just waiting to see when is the dust gonna settle on the new NFC? When are we gonna kind of have a sense of who are the top quarterbacks, who are the top teams? Because we've been there with the AFC for a while now.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's been Ubumfa NFC Pod.